Hi there. Today we're going to be talking about the app Educreations. Educreations is a free app that can be used to create video tutorials for your students to watch at school or as flipped homework. Students are also encouraged to create their own tutorials to assess or deepen their understanding of a particular concept. Educreations can also be found at www.educreations.com. So let's go ahead and get started and launch the Educreations app. And upon launching it, you're going to see that a tutorial pops up the first time you're here. And it's a nice tutorial. You can take a couple minutes to click through that, but for right now I'm going to close it since we're going through everything together anyway. But just know that you can always find that tutorial down here. If you just click on that gear, you'll see that it says tutorial. But for now, we're going to go up and click the new lesson button to start with our blank canvas or a blank interactive whiteboard. And to start off, you'll notice at the top we have 4 colors for our free-form writing: black, yellow, blue, and green. And before we do that, we'll jump down to the bottom. This bent piece of paper down here gives you the option of changing your background before we get to our writing. Line paper, graph paper, coordinate grid, or I'm going to stick to the white paper just for the sake of today. And as I said, going back up, you have some color choices for your writing, and you don't just have the 4 that are showing. If you click on the arrow, you actually have a larger palette that you can choose from, and if you just scoot over so the arrow moves across, you can pick the ones that you want to be showing, but you can always get to the other ones just by pulling down that arrow. So if I was going to be making a math problem on my screen, I might do something like this, and if I wanted to add some text, I could go ahead over here to the T, and if I just click on that text, tap anywhere to add the text, I can go ahead and write the word add. If I use the plus and minus, I can make my text larger and smaller. Change the color by going over here to my color box. Again, your palette is quite large, and if I'm happy with that, I can go ahead and click the blue done button. Now there's more I can do with that text once I'm finished. If I just tap it, you'll see the menu come up at the bottom. I can delete it, I can duplicate it, which I'm going to do right now, so I can have another add in there. I can click the T again, and here's where I get my menu from before in case I need to make any adjustments. Or I can lock it, and if I lock it, that just means that I won't be able to slide it around anymore. Which is pretty useful if you're afraid you're going to hit it or move it around by accident as you're making your recording. So that is pretty much everything you can do with the text tool. Moving over a little bit to the picture of the mountains and the sun, that's to put an image into your slide. So if I go ahead and tap that, you'll see you can put it in from your camera on your iPad, which is nice if you need to take a picture of a word problem or a student's work that you want to show revisions or something like that. Photos is your camera roll, and I like to dump my pictures in there ahead of time so I can just pull them up quickly from my camera roll. If you use Dropbox, that's there for you, or you can go out to the web. It's actually a limited selection. It's kind of Educreations collection on the web, so I'll show you real quick. Here's the web. If I want to search for maybe the water cycle, sometimes you get a lot and sometimes you don't, just depending on what you're looking for. This turned out with a lot to choose from. If I just tap one, it instantly puts it in. I can shrink it down. So if I wanted this diagram for my science lesson, there it is. If I tap it, I get another menu. I can rotate it or turn it if need be. I can duplicate it if I want to. I can fit height, means I maximize the height to fit the entire screen, or again, I can lock it, which means it won't slide around as I'm working with text on top of it or working with writing or ink on top. So that's what the put in image tool looks like. I'm using the undo button, which is the next one I want to talk about, right over here where I'm pointing in green, and next to it is the redo button, just like in other apps. If I move over a little bit farther to the eraser over here, and I go ahead and tap on that one time, that erases the ink upon tapping on it one time, as I just did on that line. If I tap on it again, I can clear the entire page. I'm going to undo. If I just tap clear ink, it takes the ink off of my page. So as you work with it more, you'll see that that really does have some benefits as you figure out how you want to be creating your slides. The next thing to talk about is if I'm finished with a slide, how do I get to another one? Because it does have multiple slides, you can actually have quite a few. You're limited to 15 minutes, but you're not limited to the number of slides that you have. If you just want to advance to a clean slide, you would click right here, and that you'll notice it'll say 1 of 1, and in a minute it'll say 2 of 2. So now I'm on my second slide. Okay. But if I go back, and instead of just advancing to a white slide, I also have the option down here of duplicating a slide. So if I click on that, I can duplicate my page, and you'll see now that I just duplicated the text that was on the page, and that's become my next slide. So here was slide 1, I hit duplicate, and it gave me that slide. Okay, it did not duplicate the ink, and the reason for that is because if I click right here, again you'll see, if I click duplicate page and ink, now here's page 1, there's page 2, which has duplicated page and ink. That was just duplicate page. And that was our blank slide, which I hit this arrow over here and just wrote on again with my finger. So again, the one over here is duplicate your pages with or without the ink, and the one over here will just give me a clean slide. So that's basically all of the main buttons or tools that you'll need to get started to play around and create your first Educreation lessons for your students. The next step would be to go up here and to use the record button, starting back on slide 1 and talking through your work and thinking aloud for your students so they can understand the process. So if I was going to record for my students, of course I wouldn't have all these marks on here from our tutorial, but I might say something like, so now we're ready to add our ones with our other ones, so I'm looking at 7 plus 6, which I know is 13, and of course I would continue on talking to them about how to solve the problem. And now that I've actually hit record, you can see that the numbers are going up. So I stopped at 11. I recorded for 11 seconds. I can click done, and it asks me if I want to start over or save my lesson. So I do want to save my lesson. And when it does that, it wants me to give it a title. So I'm just going to call this, I guess, adding 2-digit numbers. You can put a description in if you want to, but you don't have to. I'm just going to click next. Then you can choose who's going to view it. For right now, I'm going to keep all of my things private. We have not gone over how to send this directly to students. I could choose to make it public, which would make it go into a gallery for other students to use it. That's actually a nice thing to do because it can let other people use it, so why not, right? If you can help somebody else out. Subject area, again, this is because I made it public. It wants to know where to put it so people can find it. Mathematics. I click save, saving my lesson, and you'll notice it pops right up into my other lessons. In order to get the information from this lesson so that I can post it on my website for the flipped classroom or the blended learning, I'm going to go up here to this arrow, and when I click on that, it gives me the option of sending it to Facebook or Twitter, to emailing myself or to students the actual video, or I can get the link, which is what I would need to put it onto my website. So when I click on link, I can take the link or the URL, or I actually can get the embed code, either one. So if you're more comfortable with just the link, it will come up with a bunch of letters like www.educreations and the URL that they've attached to your lesson, and the students would have to click on it. Or if you're comfortable embedding it, which I will show you in another video, you can copy the embed code, open up your Google Sites, and paste it in there, and your actual video will pop up. They won't have to click on the link. So then we can click the done button, close that up. The last thing I want to share with you is down here you'll see it says featured at the bottom of your iPad. If you click on that, it's it's going to bring up a gallery of featured lessons in Educreations gallery. So what that does is it's a good place to, number one, find lessons that you might actually be able to use. And number two, it can give you ideas of the style that you might like that some teachers are using. And then therefore you can go ahead and say, oh, that worked well. That's something that I kind of want to try while I'm making my lessons. So even if you don't see some that you like, I would click on a few and open them up. You can also search by subject area. So if you were looking for a science lesson, and then you can go ahead and look in there and see, as I said, for some you can use or just for some ideas of how to go ahead and start creating your first lesson, which is the next step. So thanks for joining me, and hopefully we start to see some of your lessons up on this gallery as you take the next step in the flipped classroom and blended learning.